It is 7:02, so I will call the Police Services Board meeting of December the 17th to order. To have a motion to confirm the agenda for tonight's meeting. Rick moves it, Kathy seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interests? None noted. We have the minutes from the previous board meeting of November the 19th. Does anybody wish to move those minutes? Kathy will move them and Rick will second them. Is there any questions or clarification of those minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor of those minutes? Carried. Delegations, business arising from the minutes. I don't think there's anything that we noted. There is some discussion about the cannabis, but me and Carson are still working through that discussion, so we will bring that probably back in January so that we can have a fruitful discussion about what's going to go to the treasurer about that, but so keep that in mind.
You did outreach to health and those
Yep.
Was that beneficial?
I think it has been very beneficial about that, so thank you for that much for that. So we'll move to the detachment commander's report. Okay.
So, the report for November 2019, as everybody has before them, I think if you're looking at the stats and your year-to-date would probably be most reflective of what the occurrences have been so far. You look, November, we have zeros across the board basically for 2019, other than crimes against person. There's one occurrence there noted, but you can see your year-to-date 2019 numbers. Assault at 15 is being the highest one recorded under violent crimes. Your property crimes, your theft under, mischief, fraud, and break and enter are the four highest ranking occurrences across the board there. And again, nothing really remarkable for November. 4 break and enter, 4 theft under, 5 mischief, and 1 fraud reported for the month. Your drug crimes, 1 possession charge in 2019, in November 2019, and you can see the numbers there for year-to-date, 4 possession, 4 trafficking. Clearance rates, again, I won't get into too much depth with those, unless barring any questions from anyone with regards to those numbers. But you can see your criminal records checks and unfounded calls there as well. 19 unfounded calls on the year, and criminal records checks at 24 for vulnerable sector and 5 for your criminal records checks alone. The next page, your traffic stats. Again, nothing really remarkable that I would note for November 2019. 6 traffic complaints, a couple of traffic hazards. Your reportable, non-reportable MVCs both at 2 apiece. So I like to think the weather has been in our favor, and hopefully it continues for a while longer. But given the weather reports from tonight, it sounds like winter's coming back. So
yeah, just kind of a sense of these. I think Dave and I can both attest to the fact that the officers in the north, some of the officers that are assigned to Wingham that just venture outside a bit. There's a lot of activity that hopefully is coming out of media releases and a lot of good work being done in ride programs and that. It's certainly mitigating things coming into Wingham. Certainly, addressing safety issues like on the highway of members, citizens in Wingham, North Perth coming and going within their community. So we did have 2 serious collisions up in the north end here. And I can tell you, in our ride program, there was in the north end here a drug seizure under the provincial side rate, And, so there's been a lot of work being done up in the north end, which is certainly inclusive of Wingham as well. So,
Yeah, no, that was last Thursday, I think we had a couple of bad crashes. But there's a couple good news reports, and I know the media releases are coming out, so you're seeing those and most likely seeing them before they make it to press, but some good news stories. In the first one here, I have 3 new recruits that we've started with us in Huron County. One's actually a Huron County native, another is from LaSalle, and another is from Fergus. So they just completed their first 2 months with us, hit the ground running, so to speak, and a lot of good experience that came with those 3. So we're happy to have them, and we're excited to see them develop and learn. We spoke about rides. You can see the next one there, the Huron Bruce Mad Chapter OPP kickoff of the Red Ribbon Campaign. I was out with them on that day. We stopped a lot of traffic, spoke to a lot of people, a lot of good feedback to see us out there and stopping cars and talking to people. So the campaign is in full swing at this point, the Festive Ride campaign. So our members are out wherever they can, stopping cars and actually having a lot of success with it, actually, when we are looking at the statistics that are coming back. So I've added a couple other ones here as well, as you'll see. Suspended driver found in possession of drugs. This one's right on Josephine Street. It was a traffic stop that was conducted, and 51-year-old male from Wingham charged with possession of Schedule I substance, methamphetamine, and 2 counts of driving while under suspension. The next one you can see there again, traffic related, 27th of November, racing and drug possession charges laid. This traffic stop that occurred near Wingham this past weekend, in the press release there, 160 kilometers per hour in a posted 90-kilometer-hour zone. I would suggest that if anything's going to catch your eye, someone moving that fast obviously is a danger to others, and we know what the road conditions can be like and how fast they can change given this time of year. So there's, in my opinion, and I know everybody would be of the same opinion, there's absolutely no excuse for that kind of speed. So looking, his vehicle was impounded for 7 days, and passenger Schedule I substance, cocaine. So methamphetamine, cocaine in those 2 traffic stops. And then charges laid in vicious dog attack back on the 13th. We unfortunately had some young people that were bitten and attacked by a dog. So we have 3 individuals, 4, 8, and 16, sustaining various dog bite injuries. They were all treated and released later that day from hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. So we determined that it was an American Staffordshire Terrier. It was a banned breed in Ontario. And based on our investigation, it slipped its collar and immediately bolted from the owner's residence to the nearby church school area, and where this attack occurred. So 20-year-old Wingham resident has been charged under the Dog Owners Liability Act with 3 counts. Failed to prevent biting or attacking a person, and 1 count of owning a pit bull, which ultimately that falls under. So, yeah, unfortunate, but we were very lucky that the 3 of them didn't sustain more serious injuries. Any dog bite obviously is serious, but I'm just grateful that it wasn't beyond that. So, and that leaves the contract hours, and the inspector was going to speak to that as well.
Yeah, so I know this has been something that we've kind of gone back and forth on to try and get to where I feel that we can provide an accurate accounting of at least obligated duty hours, which are calls for service hours, and occurrence counts, and based on what you were receiving before. Before the hours that were being reported upon, Dave and I we spent almost 2 months back and forth in conference calls, just to ensure that we are on track through no fault of anyone before. I think there was just some data interpretation that needed to be clarified, and just the manner in which it was being run, which we did identify an inconsistency at our end. So the bottom line is that I know through the contract that there's transitional contract is based on 7 FTEs, and that basically is based on 1,417 hours. That's full-time equivalent hours. From a local detachment, and I've had discussions with Trevor back and forth on this, is that from a detachment perspective, we are only able to report on obligated duty hours, which are in essence the hours spent that officers spend on calls for service, and how many calls they attend. That we can report on quite simply. When you look at the 1,714 hours, there's a lot of things that aren't included, that don't get captured when you run obligated duty hours, like general administration time, certain reports, court time. There's kind of a list that don't get captured. You then get into certain leaves that aren't captured, that are included in the equivalent. So it's a rather complex formula that the Municipal Policing Bureau does at billing time, and usually, it's not usually, it is, lags behind 1 year, so that there's proper reconciliation. So, having said that, it requires a full analysis by the Municipal Policing Bureau to truly reflect, when you bring everything in that's been put forward and entered into the municipality, to in fact get a true sense of, are you receiving what you're paying for. After that, they look at if we are not meeting what you're paying for, they're, in essence, you're reimbursed back that money. So the unfortunate part is, because we're in the first year of a contract, it's tough to forecast that until you'll get your bill at the year's end, but then it gets reconciled back. So almost 1 year lags for the whole accounting process. So that's the most accurate answer that I can provide to you, short of having someone from the Municipal Policing Bureau come back and have that conversation. Now, having said that, I felt when I spoke to Trevor, when you look at the obligated duty hours that officers are spending in Wingham, those we can provide and those we have provided. So to date, there's 4,317 hours that are being dedicated to the calls for service. So that's how long officers have been on calls. I felt it important to put in the Township of North Huron because the officers are in and out of Wingham, back and forth, supporting each other, and they're also coming in. So by looking at that, when we look at our calls, or our obligated duty hours up in Wingham, there are more hours being spent in the town of Wingham than there are, in essence, in the other outlying counties. So when we look at the Wingham Currents account, and again, this is only alive by when we pulled the data, there's been over 902 occurrences. That could be barking dogs, aggravated or whatever. So that's the total. So at this time, from locally, that is the most accurate data that we can provide you on the level of service that that we can. Before, when you look at the hours that it wasn't the way it was being reported before, it was basically giving you the obligated duty hours, the total, which is obligated duty hours, but we were subtracting it from full-time equivalent hours, and it's apples to oranges. So what you're seeing here should be apples, apples, and apples. So that should give you a sense, I hope. I know it's confusing, it's not, you're not seeing it clearly from the breakdown of that hours that everybody wants to see, but unfortunately that's the way the billing model and everything is set up. So, having said that, Dave and I are very alive to the fact that, you know, and I think through the vehicles, so the things that we've been reporting on, there's a presence here. We can always work on visibility issues, all those things moving forward. But to see the, you know, at the year's end, which, you know, the 9,900 hours, it's a full-time equivalent. There's a lot of things that are backed in and out of that, that they will account for when they do the reconciliation, which is, I don't even pretend to possess how they extract that. But what I can tell you, it works, from my best understanding, it works very similar to when we have a contract enhancement. You're paying for that contract position at FTE, so to speak. And if we don't meet those obligated hours, there's a reimbursement back to the municipality to say, we didn't meet the full hours of what we paid for, reconciliation, and it comes back. So, any questions in relation to that?
Any questions for the Attachment Commander?
Just a question about why, so when you got it broken down with Wingham and Township of North Huron,
Yep.
so Township of North Huron though is taking into the consideration other areas that you have in your contract as well, is it not?
They're not contract.
So where are the North Huron Township hours?
So those would be East Wallinosh
Right.
Yes.
and Blythe.
Who are also paying for service.
They're paying a separate, they have a
Okay.
separate,
So
That's
that
right.
really doesn't come into play
Well,
here.
I feel it does, because it's all one council, correct?
yes,
And so I felt
One
through,
council, but three different contracts, no?
they're not a contract, they're 5.1, so they pay for service as they go. You're 100% right, is that they will get their own separate bill,
Right.
because they're separate municipalities, but it's one council that provides oversight to all of it.
so they're separate towns.
Yes.
Or wards within the municipality. It's one municipality under one under one council. But East Wallinosh, and so the reason why this is important is because under the current taxation model that municipality has, is East Wallinosh and Blythe pay, the cost for their policing is area rated to them, and the cost for the town of Wingham, policing under our contract, is area rated to the residents of Wingham.
Right.
So if you live in Wingham, your tax bill is going to have the $1.2 million spread over the 3,500 residents here, the 1,800 households.
Right.
Where the $200,000 that because of the calls for service that Blythe and East Wallinosh are having, they're taking that and running it over their limit. The reason why it's important is for a council perspective is to understand that the arrangement that's being had. In complete fairness, it would be a whole lot easier if everybody was under the same, but right now that's not possible. And I don't know if it will ever be possible based on discussions that we've had with the previous council, and this council has never even had those conversations, so I'm not even going to speculate, to be quite honest with you, whether that's even going to be a part of it. I just think from right now, it's clear that the discussion has to be, some of the reporting here is, it's very important for the council to understand the total cost associated to this, because what's going to happen is council members, and Rick can probably contest to this, is they're going to look at the invoice that we get from the OPP for Blythe and East Wallinosh, and they're going to say, okay, yep. Then they're going to look at the bill that we get for the town of Wingham, and they're going to say, does that match the agreed contract that we got from the OPP for the town of Wingham? And what I'm going to hear right now is, well, yeah, but the conversation is everybody's going to ask, did we get the hours or what was required of us, or required under the contract?
Yeah, I follow that. I still don't understand how breaking in the other hours is.
And the big difference between the other two municipalities in New York, it's a 5-1 contract. It's not based on FTEs whatsoever. It's based on property costs, price per property, and calls for service. The difference here is that with Wingham, they went with 7 FTEs, which they felt, and I don't know how the contract went, but or what the methodology was behind it, but they felt that this is the service that they want based on 7 FTEs, and they were willing to provide, at this time, they want to see what that looks like for 7 full-time equivalent officers. That's in essence kind of what it's saying, and so Trevor.
Yeah, so Jim, I understand your question is that how does the obligated duty hours represent anything to do with the township or the Wingham Wards contract? It doesn't. For under the Wingham Wards contract, we're looking at the obligated duty hours per Wingham.
Right.
But we have to understand is that the township, the council, is going to see that, and then they're gonna see some other number that there's no contract for. So when in talking to the detachment commander, it was the conversation is there's more things that are being done in the municipality that's not obligated. And the argument is that if we at this point we can't specify how many hours that is because it's under the municipal policing bureau and how they establish what they're going to take out and put in. So as a service delivery for the entire municipality, it would be imperative that they at least understand council, and us, I think, in all honesty, about where are the obligated duty hours being spent? Because I would argue if you showed me this and that was exactly flipped, that 4,000 hours was in the rest of the other wards and not in the town of Wingham, the argument would be, well, Wingham is the most highly populated place in the municipality. Why are they spending time in East Monash when they don't want?
And that's why I felt that through conversations with Trevor, both Dave and I felt that it is the one way that we can show, based on the obligated duty hours, which in essence represents calls for service, that the majority of the time officers are here within the town, which our hope is then will translate back to your FTE costs of that. Do I forecast it probably being short? Probably, I'm just kind of guessing, but by how much or whatever, I don't know. The other side of it is as I mentioned before, is that officers now, unlike before when they were Wingham PD, they're going out onto the highway a bit more outside of town, doing rides, doing various things, and in my view, that all contributes to community safety in the town of Wingham. So some of those hours won't be scored to Wingham because it's outside, some may be even on the provincial highways. So it's very complex. I certainly appreciate frustration on that. As equally as confused when I got here and what do you mean we're talking about FTEs again? We haven't been doing that for 3-4 years, right? So I thought, well, I thought I had a handle on this as a detached commander. Whoa, this is a brave new world again. So that's why I felt that at least we could get a comparison to apples, work that through, and that that will be all addressed through reconciliation when it comes out. So it's the best I can do. That's the best Dave and I can do, because our whole system is not designed that way. And I know this is a little bit of an anomaly. So, but it's like, and again, Dave and I are embarking on a new, as I mentioned before, tweaking a little bit of police service board reports, so you can see a few more of those proactive efforts, and then start to push that out to the officers for different things that our hope is to increase some visibility and all that stuff. So it's a big learning curve I know that the Wingham officers have gone through. I can tell you this, I'm starting to get to know some of them. They're doing some amazing work. The officers are working with, that we're forming from Wingham. It's amazing. Like, it's just, I would have expected nothing less. But I think that speaks to, the officers that were here before, working in your community. One officer, this is lead on the big fatal collision, so.
He's done several now, so in just a short period of time. When you're looking at December will be a 10-month period. Just coming up will be 10 months. And I want to say he's been involved in 3 to 4 major collision investigations. And in the same token where they could be assigned to be working up here and the collision's out on the highway, Obviously, we're gonna send the closest officer to the scene, and he would be that officer taking the lead on that investigation. So there's many hours that are scored, which you would see retracted from Wingham proper to the highway based on that collision, right? And that's one officer in particular that I say between 3 and 4 in the last 10 months. Like the inspector said, doing incredible work. I'm involved with those we have telephone conferences, sorry, that word escapes me, where we sit down with the traffic manager, the investigating officer, the local supervisor, and we go through a huge checklist and make sure that we're covering all our bases. And it's just incredible work that he's done, and knowing the system and knowing what needs to be done, which is total credit to Wingham and what he's learned previously. So.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that we certainly leverage analytics. Like where's our calls for service, and that's where we want our officers to be. And as much as people can say, oh, we never see a police car on the line or whatever. What's the reason for being there? Officers will drive occasionally, but where's occupying your time? Where's everything happening? That's where we need to be. Back in the day, and I just was at an old association meeting, Dave and I, and we're listening to old copy. You never see it, but they drove around and they did what they want. But that's the way it was. And in some cases there was 10, 12 officers, and that's the way it was done. And with the technology, all this stuff, with everything that we challenges from budget stuff, you guys know it.
Gas was also 40 cents.
Yeah.
Mind you, it was in the Dodge Fury, Plymouth Fury. So, but I think we have to be very tactical and wise with our resources to provide the best services to our municipalities that we serve. And certainly, Wingham's the most populated area. I would expect that if that goes the opposite way, at least we have a gauge now to kind of sense that. And it's the other things too, like are we contributing to community events like the CKNX drive, or are we participating with the newcomers educational piece, which we have. All those things are part of what we do. So, and the bigger picture is, are the officers scoring it accurately? And always, garbage in, garbage out. So there's always learning curves, and with, again, some of our younger officers, what do I put this down as, right? So it's a constant, we've been doing this a long time, it's just constant that we keep on this. So I think we've landed, in my perspective, and I hope yours, to a place where we can at least get a sense of, in Wingham and in North Huron, where the resources are at least being utilized, and then move forward from there. And then my hope is that we'll get some clarity, albeit not as timely as the municipality or the council may like, and I certainly understand that, to see where we are as far as the transitional contract with how do we look in relation to 7 FTEs, and have we received the hours that were brought into that. So I felt that if we continued down that other road, there could be some drastic shocks at the end, and I'd rather address it in year 1, near the end, and hope for the best with a good plan than think we have a good plan and have something poor turn out at the end. So I hope I provide you with a better sense of how we got to these numbers, how it's going to look, and how the process is. If there's any questions, I'd be more than glad to bring someone from municipal policing in to have further discussions if they arise. We have analysts do this, and Dave and I were kind of in a blank stare. What we had to nail it down to what we do, because it's huge. It's huge. They're financial analysts, and so.
And I think the one thing that I would take away from this as well is this is going to give some more information to not only us about the municipality as a whole, and not necessarily Wingham, other than the fact that the North Huron Police Services Board has never always been involved in the East Wallinosh or Blythe wards, but there's nothing saying we shouldn't have been. I've always said, as the fact that we have, and I've said this before on council and in this board, is that if somebody in Blythe has an issue about the way, the OPP in how they're portrayed or doing their job in that ward, we have a direct link to the OPP monthly. So I'm not expecting you to wait to call me. You should call the OPP directly if there's an issue, but you at least have a once a month. I have the ability, or we have the ability, to bring issues that have come arise through the month that maybe some may can happen. I think ultimately at the end of the day it's about information, and I would rather be more transparent about the information that's out there. People can decipher the information however they want, but at least then it gives them information and gives them things to ask questions like you did tonight, Jim. People need that information to ask the question, because the way we were getting the information before, there was no guarantee anybody would be able to interpret what that information means. And even maybe tonight, when if somebody or next week when they read or see this meeting, they may not understand what obligated hours mean at all. But at least they have the opportunity then to say, what does obligated hours mean? And I know from a council perspective, and Rick can probably contest to this when budget's time, we're gonna start to be asked at the end of this day about reconciliation and where is this number gonna be?
Yeah.
Because they're gonna wanna know how are we going to be budgeting going forward, and what is this gonna look like in 3 years? Because, let's be real, is the council was and the staff would put a plan in place that we were hoping to see a reduction in costs because of the new billing model. Do we know if that's gonna be the case? We have no idea until we get there.
The other thing too is that the provincial side of the responsibility, I know with the warrants up here, our members, that's all backed out of this. That's all totally backed out. And if in fact, and I know this through speaking through my conversations with this police bureau, if, let's just say we looked at that let's for argument's sake, the 10,000 hours, obligated duty hours. If we provided 11,000, 12,000 hours, you're not gonna be billed for that. So, that my experience has been that it always errs back to the municipalities, not how do we, in essence, because it's not really OPP, it's kind of the whole mix of Treasury Board and building it. It all ties back to the provincial component of the service delivery from the provincial. We just carry out the service. So it's not in essence the whole OPP, it's how it ties back into the Treasury Boards and those various things. So you know, that's the other side of the coin, that and that's one thing we talk about when we look at enhancements to contracts. If you exceeded that number, then you're not gonna be billed for that. Like, it's okay, you exceeded it, okay, you got more service, you got more bang for your buck. So anyways, if that, was this something you'd like to continue like this then, just so that Dave and I know that expectation, we're kind of on there? Maybe after thinking about it, the next time we may have more questions related to it, but I think it gives a bit of a global picture as to the north end of the county and where you sort of sit with this and actually, yeah, so.
Is there any other questions for the detachment commander? Okay. So I will take a motion that the North Huron Police Services Board hereby approves the detachment commander's report for the December 17th meeting as presented. Rick will move that, and Jim will second it. All those in favor? Carried. And I'm hoping soon we will not have a finance report anymore. There shouldn't be a whole lot. The only thing on this is obviously the hydro and the gas that's being used at the building, the empty detachment building that's over here. So barring any questions, I would take a motion to authorize and approve the payments of the bills and accounts of $412.51 for the period of November 15th to December the 12th, as presented. Jim will move those, Kathy seconds them. All those in favor? Carried. Other, no bylaws, correspondence, there has been none. Any new business?
Actually, if I may, on the
Yes.
business side, I believe I spoke of I speak of the mobile crisis rapid response to mental health officer that we have in Huron County.
I think you mentioned it, but not much in detail.
So if I may, through mental health, for lack of a better word, we now have, I won't get into the funding and how that's being gained, but we now have one, I know this may seem one, for one mobile crisis rapid response member. In essence, a mobile crisis person trained in mental health. He's a clinician, great individual, lots of experience. He's really an extension of the already existing crisis. Now I know it's kind of crosses Lynn's here from the north end to the other parts. When we speak of Huron, and actually Huron has sort of three things going on there, I guess. So he's been deployed with right now it's a joint effort that we kind of really took the lead on in Perth County, and then in conjunction with Stratford City Police, where we're sharing this individual. He's going on ride-alongs with our officers frontline, and he's also, just because of a lot of things that Dave and I've had to address in Huron County, there's just some operational things. We're slowly kind of wanting to get things solidified in Perth County, and shortly our hope is to have him start riding with officers in Huron County and attending at the various hospitals like Wingham, speaking to your existing support services here, getting some knowledge. What we found is he's been certainly well received by the officers. He's got a great personality. He's gone to calls where, I think his first call was in Clinton. On any given day, the officers probably would have apprehended this individual and taken them to hospital. He spoke with them, calmed them, realized no, based on his experience and expertise, got them some resources, and the officers went on their way. The person was fine, and that was that. We've apprehended people, and he said this person needs to be apprehended, gone to local hospitals, and has conversation with the emerge staff and nurses, and articulates why, speaks medical speak, so to speak, and the person's formed, our officers are on their way. So it's just proving great benefit to not only, most importantly, the people that are in a crisis, and then kind of secondly to our officers not being tied up at calls, and the people are getting there in the right way. What we're finding is that a lot of the officers are going, oh, that's an interesting strategy that you use, and they're starting to use it. So we're getting frontline education to the officers. So it's one certainly isn't enough, but we have to start. I've had meetings with certainly the CAO in Stratford Hospital, which is our site facility at that end of the county, and we'll be slowly having communication throughout the rest of the county as we integrate it. The hope is that eventually there'll be funding for more than one or two, especially when you look at the spans of the area, one or two of our crisis workers. They have similar places all through. Wellington has the Impact. I think it's iHeart down in Oshner County. They have a great response with Woodstock City Police that they jointly do. Now, I doubt very much you'll see a Stratford car up here, but just because of the logistics to that. But we have had the Stratford police go as far as like say Shakespeare, just in and around the county outside to provide that assistance to our officers when there's been someone in crisis. And we're doing the same when the officers with us and if we're in close proximity to the areas of Stratford Police as well. So it's a really a great news story and something that we're hoping to continue to grow. So it's a win-win for everyone. So it's just in its infancy in this area. Still much work to be done, but some great results, and it's only been about a month or so.
Any questions on that? I think the only comment I would say is I would think that the hospital, the frontline staff of the hospital would be absolutely ecstatic, the fact that they can have somebody that knows what they're seeing versus what they should be seeing, versus how to make sure that articulate it very well, that we need somebody here from a frontline officer staff because an apprehend, or no, you don't need to send officers and we can deal with the situation at the front line in the emergency. I would suggest in my mind, based on as my hospital board hat has heard many a times, is that tends to be the case in emerge and those things, is where communication is so critical about how do you deal with mental illness and mental challenges within the patient on the front line. So. Okay, no other questions there. I did want to, under new business, and I will apologize to the secretary. This actually came up last night at the council meeting, so I thought it would be impertinent to bring it up here tonight. To you, the detachment commander, and Dave, you as well. So there has been lots of discussion at last night about, there was a traffic study done up by the public school, up by Maitland River in the high school, and they're looking at doing a four-way stop at the roads of Carling Terrace and John, so right at the CKNX and Water Tower. Through that conversation, there has also been a daycare provider who brought an intersection of Carling Terrace and Cornyn, which is down the hill from the hospital. It's a school crossing zone right there at that. It's the road that heads toward, Cornyn goes towards the Sacred Heart Public School. What has been, I guess, happening from her perspective is that people are not obeying the fact that it is a school crossing zone. And the fact that when she did provide, when she called the OPP, she was very impressed about the response time of having somebody being there the next day to investigate that type of area, okay? So I just want you to be aware that there has been some people that are concerned about, and council is concerned about that particular intersection, which is Cornyn and Carling Terrace and Cornyn. And staff have been instructed to provide some recommendations to council as to what should be done at that particular crosswalk or school crossing. And but ultimately, what my response to the member of the ratepayer was again tonight is, if people are seeing instances where they believe it is to be unsafe, they are to contact the OPP, period. There is no social media, you can bitch, chew, and whine all you want, but contact the OPP and they will have a response to what they need to do on that particular case. What I have said is that is a school, I made it very clear last night, is that is a school community safety zone. There should be no doubt in my mind that there should be no savior to safety in that zone. That's why it's a community safety zone. That's what it's there for. If somebody's doing something that they should not be doing, there should be punishment for that. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror when I say that, because we all are drivers and we all do things that sometimes we shouldn't do. But, you know, ultimately, the argument from this particular ratepayer is that she just wanted to make sure that the council was aware of that particular intersection, because it was involved in a traffic study that wasn't at that intersection at all. But she also wanted it, but I did say to her, I will bring it up to you as well here again tonight, just to let you guys be aware that she has seen instances where people don't stop, or they're going at a different rate of speed than what they should be. I think they just, at the end of the day, there is gonna be a recommendation come back to council from staff at some point, but I thought it was imperative to let you know. But I've also said to her, keep continually calling the OPP if you see an issue at that particular intersection. So I just wanted to give you that, and the board to know that that did come up last night at council, so I thought it was impervious because it was dealing with the OPP and community safety that there.
I think we had a 2-week focus patrol that was designed for the area. I don't know if it was specific, it wasn't specific to that location, but yeah, when we get those calls, obviously, whether it be real or perceived, we'll go and take a look. We'll spend some time there. There's different mechanisms to record that or capture that information. And then we can also set up what we call a focus patrol, where officers are advised of that location. It doesn't have to be a school zone. It could be wherever we're getting these traffic complaints. And then we'll do a snapshot of 2 weeks of enforcement at that location. And sometimes you'll see, yeah, you know what, maybe there is something here, or maybe it's not out of the ordinary from what our stats would tell us. I know sometimes we put up the speed spy or other recording device based on complaints, and then when you actually get the data at a wide range, you're not at the threshold of what was originally reported. So no, by all means, and I think that's absolutely correct. If you have a citizen that has concerns over any area for traffic control or traffic complaints, that they let us know that, and we can definitely follow up. And I know there was one up here in the north.
It was, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
If
have
you have
it
an
before.
email to contact with that individual, you can forward that to Dave by email. Then that's usually the gap, is maybe she has called and spoken to an officer. Sometimes the officer, or it's not conveyed to them that it is a broader picture than you just explained. So having learned that, then we can provide further direction to officers up here that this is what we need to do, and somebody can reach out to her very much the same way we've dealt with a couple of the other issues that arose. So we can assign one of our sergeants to kind of speak to her, kind of, then you get all the facts.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think also the if after the discussion there is a patrol or some direct relate to that intersection, that any information that would come back from the OPP as it relates to what they've seen, what they've acknowledged, what they haven't acknowledged, whatever, can be also then conveyed to the municipal staff, so that they can take the information from not only what they look at as perception and what the public is looking at as solutions to that, but also the information that they're getting directly from officers who have done a 2-week, whatever the case may be, or whatever the case may be. I think ultimately it's a matter of information that they have, so that when they're making recommendations to council, that they have all the facts, and they have all the facts as it relates to, should it be considered not a school crossing zone, but a crosswalk? What is that? Is it education? Is it something else that we need to talk about to further educate people and personnel and
Well, that's
residents?
the side we can do too, is that through Jamie Stanley, media officers saying, this certain area in Wingham, it's been brought to us, please slow down. Officers too, educate people when they're going there. School officers, maybe work with the school, whether it's getting pickup, all that type of stuff. The other thing too, and I apologize, I'm not that familiar with Wingham yet, but one of the things we have seen, I've experienced in many municipalities that I've worked, is when you start to have growth in certain areas, right? So you have subdivisions pop up and increases traffic flow. And it's never been like that, and it's going on all over the place, so there's always that, piece that adds to, other traffic control alternatives as well, so.
Yeah. So I just thought it was imperative to let you guys know, but also to get some of that, if there is patrols are done throughout that discussion, I will contact the ratepayer again and just ask her if she wishes me to pass on her contact to you. I don't want to be obviously in the middle. If she wants to let me pass her information on to you, I will. If she says to me she's already contacted somebody in the OPP and she has a contact information, then I will pass that on to you, Dave, that says
Absolutely.
she has talked to this and this person, and then they can, or if she just talked to general administration or somebody at the Huron County OPP, then I'll but if I can get her name and say that she wants me to pass that on to you guys, I will do that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so other than that, opportunity for public comment, there is no public people here. There is no closed session. So the next meeting will be scheduled for Tuesday, January the 14th at 7 o'clock, right here.
Confirm that date.
Pardon me?
Confirm that date.
That date.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, so normally we have it on the third Tuesday of the month. That is the second Tuesday, and that would be because Trevor is away at Roma.
Okay.
Rome is the next week, so,
No problem.
and the fact that potentially, from what I've been told, we could only have 3 members, now is even more pertinent. So, yeah. Okay? So if there is not, is there anything else that, I don't think there is any, but other than that, I would like to take this time to wish the detachment commander as well as the OPP great holiday season and Merry Christmas to you guys as well as the staff of the OPP, and thanks for help and support through this transition. It's not, and I can contest it has not been easy, but I think the information that we're getting is critical to the success of the venture with both of us. So I want to thank you guys as well as the rest of the staff of the OPP for me to pass that on behalf of the North Huron Police Services Board. As well, I'd like to, as the chair, I'd like to wish the board members a nice Christmas holiday season, because it's all about family, and I think we all deserve a little bit of a break. So thank you for this year. It's not been obviously an easy year, not only through the transition, but other things that we've been going on. So I would thank you for your patience and that for the next, and we'll see you in January. So, okay. So at this point, I would take a motion for adjournment. Kathy moves and Jim seconds. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.